This is Moments with Foo with James Foo Torres, better known as Foo, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet, hear their stories, and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. Moments with Foo is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Foo.
Hello and welcome to Moments with Foo. I'm your host, James Foo Torres, but you can call me Foo, hence the name of the podcast. And today I have Mikey Peres, also known as Mikey. He is a software engineer, a journalist, and a founder. And I'm going to let him tell you more about that. But first, Mikey, how are you?
James, thank you so much for having me on your show. And I know we've tried to coordinate this a few times, so I really appreciate you making this happen.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time. We connected a year ago for the first time, and then I don't know, just kind of connected again kind of lately, and it's cool that that we managed to do this, and we both have leveled up more and a lot of things. So it was pretty cool to catch up with you. And when I saw the value that you have to offer, I was like, man, I gotta get you on my podcast. So that's why we're here. So let's kick it in with a quick introduction about yourself and your company.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I have to say that thank you again for having me. But more importantly, what I noticed is I think we have spoken about a year ago, and I was quite amazed to see how much you've grown in a year. So, to turn this on you, I would say congratulations. It's actually quite impressive to see. And I always knew you had that personality. You were aggressive, you were a hustler, but it's beautiful to see it all come together.
Thank you.
Yeah. So in terms of what I do, I'm a software engineer first and foremost. I'm a founder, I'm a journalist. And in terms of where I've been focused on more lately is founding news publications. So we have a few startups. We do tech, we do cloud computing, we do software development, and now we're in the news and media industry. So that's been quite of an interesting journey. Being immersed in writing is a skill set that I never thought I would have or focus on. And it's been honestly a pleasure. There's the certain lack of complacency where you never get too comfortable with your industry, and it brings you to wonderful places.
Definitely. I can, that resonates with me. And for me, I'm not a guy that likes complacency. I am always just testing new things, what's out there. I consider myself a creator and an innovator. I always look at things like that. I was going into industrial engineering initially. So, we got that in common. And then, the engineering part, I guess, right? But I love science and math. So I was like, well, no, engineering sounds like the right thing. But then the school system really wasn't like the college, even though I was getting good grades, I was just not very, very happy. So I was like, look, I want to just have a job and I want to go to work in Puerto Rico. I didn't have many options. So that's when I went to the States with the Air Force, and that led me into entrepreneurship after it. And I'm here now. So it's pretty cool that this journey and cool to meet people like you and from people like you. So, tell us, you said that you're focusing on building publications and building digital assets, seems like. So is that is that what's taking most of your attention right now, or is there more things that are taking your attention right now?
Yeah. So just to unpack some of the stuff you've said, because you've touched on some pretty interesting points. First of all, just to throw a couple of cliches at you, I certainly agree with you. I think complacency is the death of someone. And to the other end of that spectrum, I think innovation, I think the future belongs to those who innovate. So I think even if you do find success in your area of expertise, it's important that you never get comfortable, especially in the world of intangibles, of zeros and ones, and software development and technology. Now, to get to the other point you mentioned, which I found very interesting, was the schooling system. And I couldn't agree with you more. The schooling system was inherently designed to reward everything I wasn't. And in fact, that's kind of where my journey began. So I think that might be a good place for me to start. So I was diagnosed with aggressive learning disabilities, and one of them being ADHD, Attention Deficit Hyperactive Disorder. There we go. And I had the strongest dose of slow-release Ritalin. I had to take it every single day. I had incredible side effects, heart palpitations, depression, you name it. I was extremely unproductive. However, there was a beautiful silver lining hiding there waiting to be discovered. And I think that silver lining was it gave me a frame of reference, right? So it might have had all sorts of horrible effects, but when it worked perfectly. And it gave me an idea for me to realize, oh, this is what it's like to focus. So it gave me a marker, it gave me a goal to work towards. And then from there, my mind started working, being like, hey, how can I be at this capacity all the time? And I'm not at that capacity all the time. And I don't fight the disability of having the inability to focus on a single task. However, I leverage the fact that the fact that I have ADHD to my advantage, and I've learned how to master the art of multitasking in a way that's effective. And it's this careful art where you don't want to do too much of everything because you ended up doing too much of nothing. And you don't want to stay too focused because it's hard for you to maximize productivity. And there's a very beautiful middle ground there that takes time to discover. Now, in fact, a lot of my weaknesses, just like my learning disabilities that I perceived were something that were inherent, at least I was told by authorities that, I had such and such learning disabilities. In fact, I found a way to leverage them to my advantage. For example, I was learning disabled in writing, and I was learning disabled in mathematics. So every time the teacher would come into the class, when it was time to do math or English, I would have to go to, I guess you'd call it the quote unquote, the stupid room, where you'd have to get private attention. There was a certain sense of humiliation that kind of came with that. At the same time, when I took my Ritalin, I had to take it in front of the secretary, and then all the students were walking by. So there's almost like the stigma that came with having ADHD. And in fact, the irony is that in fact that those were my skill sets. And I ended up getting my degree. I did a double major, so I did computer science and I got a degree in mathematics. And in fact, these were the fields that I completely fell in love with, the things that I was told I wasn't good at. And to kind of maybe reconcile how this all played out was and I certainly don't criticize the schooling system, because I think it works for many people, and it can't work for everyone. Now, the thing about the schooling system, especially at the very onset when you're in elementary school, is you're rewarded for complacency, you're rewarded for structure, you're rewarded for organization, and you have very little room for creative thought, for the engineering mindset, I would say. And everyone is placed with the same subjects, whether you like it or not, and there you go. And as you kind of traverse through that educational system, you're given more autonomy to focus on what you enjoy. And what I've noticed is, I spent, 8 years in college, and I found, instead of following the system of going to class and following all those protocols that you're told, as courses got more and more complex and as classes got more and more advanced, in fact, I kept doing better and better and better. And instead of having to go to class, I realized I'm way more effective with my time if I take my colleagues' notes and reverse engineer the course. And I learned how to find the right kind of teachers. And the very good teachers were very careful to map their coursework with their exams. And they were also very surgical about how they taught the courses. So they'd give you two similar questions with one slight difference, and then from there, there'd be some nuanced mechanic they're trying to get you to focus on. In fact, looking at my friend's notes allowed me to push away all the noise that comes with being in a classroom setting and just focus on what's important. And as the courses got more and more advanced, you had teachers who were doing graduate level, we're doing differential equations, partial differential equations, whatever it may be. The teachers cared less about whether you come to class. They cared less about all that etiquette, and they cared whether you did the material or not. And in fact, all you needed was a syllabus. I became a master at reverse engineering courses or learning without a teacher. And to look back, in fact, the schooling system wasn't designed for me, but I still kind of wanted to go through it. And although I agree with you, James, that many people don't belong in the schooling system, I somehow found a way to get through it. But I definitely agree with you that if people have the hustle like you have, they have the drive, they have the determination, and they're not looking to just party all the time, I don't think school is for everyone. I certainly don't. Now, moving on to my question about what I do now. What I try to do is I have this kind of 80-20 mode where I oscillate 20 between building internal infrastructure and then 80% doing R&D. I'll flip that, 80% R&D, 20% managing my current infrastructure. So this comes back to the conversation we had about not being too complacent. I'll get myself immersed in a specific industry. I'll give myself a time frame, 3 to 6 months, where I'll try to become a master of the service. And every service we offer in our companies are services that I can do at the very same level that I'm delegating or greater. And that's crucial for allowing me to operate as an effective leader. So I'll spend time where 80% of the time I'll go in hardcore research mode, kind of packing Red Bulls, kind of grow a beard, live in a cave, which is my house, my room. And I would just focus on a set of skills that are slightly out of my area of comfort. Once I get a sense of mastery, then I'd go ahead and kind of add it to our arsenal of services. But 20% of the time, I still need to kind of keep afloat what we're doing now. So I have this 80-20 where I'm constantly oscillating. Now we're currently in the publication space. And we're leveraging all sorts of skills before us, understanding how SEO works, understanding how journalism works to kind of build a healthy publication. So right now we're focused on 4 publications: Paris Daily, Breaking 9 to 5, Israel Now News. And our most important focus right now is Her Forward magazine, where we cover female success stories in attempt to bridge the coverage gap between female entrepreneurs, male entrepreneurs, or minority entrepreneurs, and just regular entrepreneurs. Because there clearly is, shown in the media and the statistics, that there is a gap of representation. And I think talent does not discriminate by any of those factors.
Yeah, I completely agree. You have so many good points. And to your point of the schooling system, I had good grades. It wasn't like I couldn't figure out how to get good grades. I was just not feeling like I needed to get out of my house. Like I just needed to get out of Puerto Rico, basically. I was just like, look, the economy here is pretty bad. I can't find a job that I like. I'm studying, and I'm out. Like, I'm out. And I just want to go to work. And that's why I did it. But I could have finished it, right? I mean, I still can if I wanted to, but I just don't want to. I don't see the ROI in it as much as I can do in my business. I'm learning so much.
Way more.
I learned.
Yeah. I mean, I see it. After 1 year, you're like a completely different person. I met you when you were kind of just beginning your journey in some capacity, and then you touch base with me again, and I'm like, whoa, this guy he's killing it. So and exactly. But here's the thing, James, not everyone's like you. So some people need that pressure. It really comes down to your personality, and it comes down to your inner gut. That's the very truth. People follow protocols. They're not always the best for them. And I can give you an example, and I say this all the time. Take the bus on a Monday morning at 6 a.m. and you'll see that so many people don't do the work they love. And it takes a certain sense of grit to start at the very onset and not make a lot of money and give up a lot of the enticing benefits or the facade of comfort that comes with working at a 9-to-5 job. You ought to be willing to give up that time for some significant period of time until you actually see ROI, return on your investment, by doing your own pursuits. And that takes an entrepreneurial spirit, which I'm happy to expand on. Exactly. And the people, and I do say this kind of breaking 9-to-5 mode where you take control of build your own company or become a freelancer, it's not necessarily better than finding a super stable job at Google or Facebook. It really comes down to what the individual is looking for. I don't sell everyone on breaking 9-to-5. I truly, truly don't. However, someone like yourself who wakes up every morning and doesn't feel a sense of fulfillment kind of going through the standard system, it's not your choice. You can't control how those synapses fire in your brain. And there's no reason why every morning you wake up, James, and you're like, yeah, man, I'm going to continue killing this. I'm going to continue building my own empire. Being like, hey, no, fuck it. I just want to go get a nice 9-to-5 job. I want to be that guy that you message him on a Friday afternoon and he goes, oh, I don't have my company email. I'll message you Monday. I'll respond Monday. They've got that clear cut. They come home at 5, they kick it back, they got their wine, they enjoy the game. For that, people find that happy. And it ultimately comes down to what's in your gut and what makes you happy. So the fact that school wasn't just for you, it doesn't say anything good or bad. And the real question is now that you're not in school, what are you making of your time?
Yeah, I'm making a lot of learning, a lot of action, a lot of connection to people, a lot of amplifying the impact of people that are doing good in the world. That's what I picked PR, because it was right. I knew that I needed to find, like, when I started my journey, I knew that I just needed a vehicle to push. Like, it doesn't matter what it was. Like, it's something that I can just get behind on, fits my lifestyle, and I believe in it, and then I'll just, go all in on it. There's infinite ways to make money in this world. Just pick one that fits your lifestyle and just go all in. That's it.
Exactly. And I think you see something that many people don't, and it's a trap that people fall into. They graduate college and they look at, what is the economy paying me best? That's kind of what I want to pursue. I think you've done something different, and I think you've avoided a pitfall that many people unfortunately don't pick up on, is that you first focus on building a network. You first focus on doing what you love. And then as a byproduct of that, as an inevitable byproduct of doing a stellar service, money follows. But it's harder to do it the opposite way, to find a job that pays really well and fall in love with the pursuit. It's much easier to do what you love, find a way to be creatively unique, expand on that uniqueness factor, and then you offer something that's harder for others to compete with. And you don't look at it as a job. You truly enjoy what you do. And I think that's why you have a podcast, and it's why you're in PR, because I think you understand the value of networking. And now to speak to your audience for just a moment here, we're talking about breaking 9 to 5. So we were talking initially about, starting your own company, being an entrepreneur, being a founder. Many people would say, hey, Mike, I'm glad you're talking about it, but that's all, in the ether. It's easier said than done, right? I currently am paycheck to paycheck. I have $2,000 rent, right? I can't just go and start my own company, right? I have a family to support. And I agree with people who say that. And, one of the things I talk about is the survival cost problem. And that is literally what stands between you and your future. Your survival cost, and often, especially when you work in the high-tech industry, you have something called an inflated survival cost. I'll give you an example. You graduate and you get a job in Silicon Valley. You move to San Francisco. You're paying rent, $3,000 a month. Food costs you $100 every day. Okay. Now, you are stuck in your job because you have to keep this survival cost that truly can be significantly lower, but you've artificially brought it up by living in a place that is needlessly expensive. Now, the real question is not how do you become successful or how do you start your own company? I find that almost a truly just insignificant question. The real question people need to ask themselves is, what are they willing to give up to get it? Because we all want to be successful. That's a non sequitur. That's a non-starter, right? Well, the real question is, are you willing to give up your 12 hours of sleep? Are you willing to give out your party of the weekends? Are you willing to give up your beautiful apartment that makes you look really good to your guy friends, to girls, to all that stuff? Are you willing to move back into your parents' home for 6 months so you can move your costs from $3,000 down to $100 a month? And this way, you have tremendous amount of upward mobility, freedom of navigation to actually pursue something which takes you 6-9 months to hone the right skills. And not only can you, so the real question, the first step you want to say is what is crucial, what is essential to my survival, and what am I willing to give up? And in fact, if you're willing to move back to your parents, you've got your hot cooked food, you don't need restaurant, you don't need rent, and already there, you can start collecting savings. You can get yourself a good $10,000 in savings, and you can give yourself a buffer of 9 months. And here's the interesting part. The other end of that is you want to invest in skill sets that are both malleable and don't tie you, don't have a constraint of place. And I personally think doing stuff that's untangible, the zeros and ones, software development, writing, graphic design, just web design, PR, whatever it may be. These are the kind of skill sets.
I would say sales is a good way.
Even like doing Amazon sales, sure, you have physical items, but the more you can detach yourself from anything physical, the more you can offer intellectual value.
That was my train of thought to come into an agency, because I was like, I don't want to have inventory. That was my look. I didn't know what I was gonna do. I was just I started thinking about doing a brand, and that's when that was born and all that. And then from there I was like, you know what, I don't want to have inventory, I want to have services. And that's, I completely agree with you.
Spot
because
on.
I went that route.
Yeah. And the problem is that bureaucracy has kind of held us in a prison where 30-40 years ago, the way it worked is you would look at the economy, you'd find a job, you see, okay, so the software engineers pay this paying job, and then you invest 3 years and develop a skill set, and you hone into something specific. However, we are high along the curve of that Moore's law, that exponential rate of growth of technology. And I think that predictive power to see what specific tools for what specific application is becoming less and less meaningful. We're moving at such a fast pace, it's almost chaotic, and our ability to predict even the next 2-3 years is becoming, more of an issue. So I think investing in skills that are diversified. So for example, learning how to code, you can apply yourself to gaming, you can apply yourself to the finance industry, you can apply yourself to web development, to app development. You have so many applications. And then you have disruptors like COVID that are a great stress test to see how quickly you can innovate and how quickly you can adapt to to an ever-changing environment. And I think those are the people that those are the kind of skills. You want to invest skills that you can't touch, that are highly malleable and have many applications. So this way you can develop a career portfolio, and you can have so much freedom of navigation when you have that non-complacency factor where you're never getting too comfortable in your services. So for example, for me, I started as a nerd coding in my basement. I had no idea web design, no nothing. I was just able to do code, Java-based systems, right? Then I inched outwards and I realized I'm hiring designers. And at some point I realized I'm kind of telling them what to do. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. Usually there's like this inverse relationship. The better of a coder you are, the worse of a designer. And I'm like, hey, why don't I just become a better designer? And then I started designing in CSS, which is more like just vector based and whatnot. And then I realized, it's not entirely vector based, but doing CSS allowed me to remove Photoshop and other stuff from the equation. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm actually a pretty good designer. Right. And then I'm like, oh, hey, why don't I just have a team of people and learn how to use my unique skill sets where it's truly needed? Instead of doing more of the grunt work, why don't I leverage where I'm unique, my uniqueness factor, and do more? And then before I know it, I have a web development company. And then I go, hey, I'm sending people away for marketing, for SEO, and for hosting. Hey, why don't I make my next 80 R&D mode when I kind of oscillate into R&D mode? Why don't I kind of expand and learn how network data communication works, learn how SEO works, and then learn how digital marketing works. And then I'm tacking on these services. And before I know it, I'm in a completely radically different industry. So yeah, just to circle back here, when you do discover what you love, and it can be something as non-economically friendly as being an artist or even being a painter. Let me give you an example here, right? People say, okay, Mikey, that's great. I love painting. And I know for a fact, I don't make any money painting whatsoever, right? But you can leverage those abstract mechanics and find a way to become very good. So you can become a graphic designer, use your uniqueness factor, become a graphic designer and sustain your painting lifestyle. And then you can grow in both capacities at the same time. And this way, when you do have enough financial stability, you can actually find a way to make money doing painting, right? So, it comes down to truly finding what you love and deploying those skills in a more abstract manner.
Yeah, and when you focus, also, I would say focus on building a personal brand. That's super important, because when you build a personal brand and you build influence because you are adding value in a very organized way, let's say, right? Like when you have your digital assets correctly and people can understand what you're doing rather than just random things around the internet, you start becoming more influential. You start growing a community if you're smart with it, right? Like you build a community, and then after that you become a funnel of opportunities. And now you can do whatever because you're a funnel of opportunities. That is the goal for me. That is the goal that I have for my clients, to help them, first, have them start a fire, right? Like you have a fire started, you have something good that the market wants, regardless of what it is. Then from there, now push them into going national, right? Starting a movement, right? What we do with PR now is not just press moments of, hey, just get one thing here, one thing there, and that's it. It's more of everything that we do to support the movement, to support the brand going national. So that way you become a funnel of opportunities. That's the ideal scenario, because now you can do whatever you want because you're a funnel of opportunities. Everybody funnels through you. That's why it's very good to have one skill that you're really good at. Just pick something and then use it as your branding, and then now you can even trade value with people. Or you're a graphic designer, go to a PR agency like me and offer graphic design for proposals for YouTube channels, for there's I use it for Facebook banners, LinkedIn banners, all these different things. And they're if you add value to me, then I'll add value back to you, and then from there you open doors and blah blah blah, and you keep growing. That's exactly what I've been doing.
You never want to focus too far ahead. You're 100% right, and I actually really agree with what you said. And to add to one point there, I think people generally are inspired by other people, not necessarily brands and companies. So you can, but you have a lot more. Even as a PR agent, I imagine you have a lot more freedom of navigation when you help represent an individual. And again, it's all about setting up that crucial groundwork, right? Because once the foundation is there, you're building a castle on a good foundation rather than building a castle on a mudslide. And people who have real brand identity crises, they've got their personal website, but they have all their company links in their social media. And Google is so confused of who it's indexing, what it is. And I think getting the groundwork right from the start is very, very important. And building your brand and your company around yourself is way better, because you might have multiple endeavors and multiple startups, and some will fail, some will grow tremendously. It's impossible to actually predict where it's going to go. And if you invest all your branding on your specific company, you kind of lose that if the company doesn't take off or you have a different vision. But if you build a brand on yourself, and someone who does a really good job of that, and he's revolutionized the real estate industry, for example, because real estate is a great example. When people post on their social media, just sold a house, it's very low user value. No one really cares if you sold a house. And it's just almost spam. And the likelihood of someone following that account is quite low. However, someone like Ryan Serhant, he was actually one of the first people I met in my industry, and he's got a TV show called $1 Million Listing. He's completely revolutionized how people perceive real estate agents, where he started giving real estate tips. He made a TV show around himself, Sell It Like Serhant. He came up with all these different products to market himself. And now people are inspired by him. And in turn, he does tremendous success in real estate by leveraging his own brand, his own personal brand. And I think that's an example of someone who does it right. So 100% right, James. I think people who invest in themselves, whether it's PR, digital marketing, whatever it is planting the seed for long-term success. And I think it's a multi-pronged approach, right? SEO, marketing, and PR. They all have different use cases. Someone who's looking to get a ton of traffic on their site, I wouldn't say PR is the way to go. If someone is trying to build up their own reputation and leverage long-term success and create and increase the success rate of their current marketing traffic, like putting as featured on and developing their own brand, I think PR is tremendously powerful. And people who only focus on one, I think, lose out.
I completely agree. That's why we look at things now as completely revenue operations, not just like PR or marketing or SEO. Like, we don't look at things individually. We make sure that people are aligned on everything, so that way we can then pour fuel to the fire and take off. Because if you're missing something, if you're missing the sales alignment, or missing the creative brand positioning, or missing the strategic marketing, like it only takes getting one missing, and then
you're only as good as your weakest component.
Yeah, exactly. So that's exactly my point. So that's why for me, it's where I like to live in is in the creative branding positioning and in the strategic marketing, like the sales alignment and to create a new offer that will resonate and everything. I love creating, but they having to go to the test phase and not knowing, and then being able to then get to the point that then you start a movement with it, right? I like to start a movement, right? Like, I like to start movement. That's my thing. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. Like, I want to look for people that already have something, because I will get to that point because I'm getting coaching and I'm learning how to then strengthen my ability to help on that area of developing something from nothing. But I haven't even been in business for 3 years, right? I'm still learning my own business, right? And
that's how you should always think. Even in 20 years from now, you should still have that education cap on, where you have that pressure to always learn. And again, I love that, because it's that lack of complacency. You always want to be the smallest person in the room. You really do. And normally people who make when people make it to the best boxers, MMA fighters, their biggest failure, I think where they do their worst is when they're at the very top, because they no longer have someone to climb up. They no longer have a contender that they need to work super hard and really hone and master whatever it is skill they're working on. And I think that we never want to feel like we're too accomplished. We always want to feel hungry and feel like, hey, the second you're like relaxing, someone else is hustling harder than you.
Mm-hmm. Even when I think about retirement, let's say, right? Like, when I think about that, when I say retired, I mean, like, look, I'm not actively working as a CEO or something, but I will always be my own person that it's doing good for the world, and that means in many different ways. Like, you're
probably never gonna actually retire, if you want my
opinion. When you retire,
you're still gonna do something on the side, because people like you are not retiring or being on vacation or running away from anything. Right? The whole idea for vacation for me is ridiculous. Why would I want to go on vacation? I need to do more of this, right? So there's nothing for me to run away from. I understand we need to relax sometimes. I get it. I'm a little hardcore for the average person, but at the same time, too much vacation is highly depressing for me.
For me, it's not like when I look at vacation, when I think about vacation, when it comes to mind is, what place of the world can I go to have fun and do business at the same time? That's how I think about it, because there's so many places, right?
What the heck, man? Go do it right now. You don't need to wait till you retire.
No. I was saying that, when I think about vacation, period, right? Like, not like retirement. When I think about vacation,
you go on a cruise.
I'm always, look, one of the best times that I've ever had, like one of the best times I had in my life, I went to a mastermind in Miami. And
Oh,
I met all these people making all this money, and I'm like, young people making $1 million a month or 300 plus 1,000 a month, and I'm like,
it's crazy,
all
huh?
these people, I saw them, I'm like, there's nothing that they have that I don't. Like like there's nothing that they're capable of doing that I'm not
That you
capable of
can't do.
doing,
Exactly.
right? And
That's
it
a winner's
always,
mindset.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, and I saw that and I was like, I can do this. Like, I can do this. And since then, it kicked off some great, like, a big spirit on, like, just, keep pushing, keep pushing.
Yeah.
And that's, how I've kept pushing because of that. It's just the perspective
Yeah.
of being in those rooms and learning a lot from them, because we were learning. So it was like a learning experience. And then from there, then we did Friday all day learning, Saturday half day learning, and then after that we went in 2 yachts, we got jet skis, we got
That's
everything,
not
like,
vacation,
drinking.
man. That's work. That's how you're networking. That's a full
I
time.
know, I
It's a
made
different
some
kind of work.
connections, like that.
You
They're
think
like
that's
life.
vacation, man? I don't agree. I don't agree. You're being productive, just in a different capacity.
But that's what I'm
But I
saying.
think
Like, when
Steve,
I think about
yeah,
vacation, I think about where can I go to have
other people
fun.
have different vacation, man. Other people want to do
Yeah,
nothing for
I don't
two
know.
weeks.
I love
But yeah, I think
networking.
Steve Jobs said it. You look around and all these amazing inventions, and you come to realize it was just created by people no different than yourself. And I think when you realize, like,
Exactly. That's the point
I
that I
can't,
was trying to
I
make.
can do that too. I can do that too. Yeah. And I think when you get these small wins on, like for example, even as a kid with ADHD, where I started to get really good grades by not going to class, it's just like diverging off the well-worn path and having these small wins give you more and more confidence. And in retrospect, looking back, I'm like, maybe that's where I get the risk-taking confidence, because it's always worked out in the past. And the thing about entrepreneurship is you got to be able to weather a storm for a significant amount of time, where there's little return and an incredible amount of energy. And you need to weather the storm until you get to that inflection point where you start going straight up with this exponential curve. And yeah, it's all about these tiny successive wins, getting more and more confident. And before you know it, you just, like, you look at anything, you're like, hey, I can do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That is exactly how I've been living. And one thing that to your point about school, what I did, I was undiagnosticated, like, all my life. So I knew that I was hyperactive. They
Really?
told me, right? I was just hyperactive. I did not know that I was dyslexic and had ADHD. Like, I did not know
Wow.
until my entrepreneurship journey,
You
literally.
did not know you were dyslexic till,
I
wait, that's incredible.
and I have dysgraphia too, and I found out that too. So, like, I
Wow.
couldn't draw, I couldn't, my handwriting, my spelling, my everything is like. But what I did was I established myself as a leader on every class project. So I assigned people the things that I didn't want to do. That's how, and that's
Right.
why,
Right.
that's what gave me an advantage to be an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, because
Right.
it
And
gave me that edge of, like, I've been already taking the position of somebody that wants to be the leader, just so I can assign people other things. And that's how I did it. Like, look, I have, like, dyslexia, and I am in
that's
PR.
incredible, man.
So
No, but let me say this. And in fact, that's probably why you're so good at it, because you've turned your disabilities into a science instead of something that's natural. You've kind of learned how to say, like, you mapped action with response, and you became really good at it. And I don't know, man, that's truly impressive. But I think what's really important of what you just said is I for me, having ADHD, I always thought I was just stupid. Right. I was like, okay, people can do math. I can't. All right, that's just how it is. But I think understanding where your disabilities are, it's not necessarily a grievance case or to label yourself by them. And I certainly don't think anyone should do that. But understanding where your shortcomings are, give you a plan of action to actually work around them and actually perhaps leverage them to your advantage. And I can only imagine that you might have, I can't speak for you, but I would guess that, having dyslexia and having these disabilities, you probably just thought you were just stupid or just not good at things. But once you're diagnosed, or once you realize you do have this disability, you're like, oh, I'm not stupid. I'm just dyslexic. Oh,
yeah,
cool. All right, how do I
I
work
always
around it?
thought that I was just different. I was like, look, I know I'm different. Like, I knew, like, it wasn't like, it's just hard to not know when you go to a school
Yes.
system that it's not designed to you. So I always was like, I'll find a way to have good grades. Like, I don't, it
Hmm.
doesn't matter the way, I'll find a way, because my mom
Problem
also
solver.
was
Right.
very good at, she never, like, sit, like, or at least that I remember, we didn't, like, study together, and she was like, no, she was like, basically, you get good grades, you can get a new PlayStation game or blah blah blah. So I was like, I need this, like I need this game. And every time, look, I started doing things very self-directed because I already knew. So what I did is like, I wanted to go to the movies. I mowed the lawn, blah blah blah, and then I just, hey mom, can I get $20 to go to the movies? And then she's like, well, I can't say no. He did all this, right? So I just literally, I did. This is one thing that my mom, I give her props every time. She kind of created, unintentionally, a reward system that motivate me to be self-directed all the time because I wanted to do things. And I knew that, I want to do something, I just gotta do things in the house. I have good grades. I know that when the midterms, right, the grades come, boom, here's all my A's and B's, I won a game, right? Or sometimes my mom just says like, hey, like, let's just buy you something because you did good. And I'm like, that stay in my brain, and I just problem solving all the time. I need to have good grades. I need to do that. Same thing I did in the military. In the military, you gotta get, to get excellence.
That's right. You went to the military.
Test, you gotta get 90. We do it on 100, like at the test, right? So you get 90 plus. You, in my squadron, they gave me a day off if I got 90 plus.
Really?
So I was like, you bet that I will do everything to just get the 90. I didn't have incentive enough to go to 100, and it was so fucking hard. So like the 90 was so easy. Imagine. The 90 was so easy that I was like, you know what? I just gotta go for the 90.
Yeah, the last 10% is always the hardest.
That's it. And I did.
In engineering, it's called the last mile problem. For example, like internet, it's like super fast till it gets to your block, and then once it gets to your neighborhood, that's where all the latency and the delays come from. Yeah, it's always that last 10%. But and you went to the military. That's incredible. I just noticed. Yeah, I saw a picture of you. How was that?
Definitely.
And how was it to shape your mind?
So one thing that he really helped me from the military to entrepreneurship was to embrace the suck. That was the best thing. Learning that this is your situation and you just gotta embrace it. I mean, I can't. I got a contract at 4 years, and if I don't go to work, I can go.
You did the military for 4 years?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, that's how I got to.
Okay, so that's why, because I remember you were just starting, and then we were talking before the podcast. You're like, oh, I'm actually older. 4 years is a long time. Wow. Yeah,
I went to Syria, Kuwait, Qatar, and Syria.
We're in Syria,
Kuwait, Qatar. What was the other one? In Turkey. So I saw when they're doing remodeling stuff for the FIFA. I was there.
Where in Syria were you?
When I was in Qatar, sorry. But in Syria, I was just in like the undisclosed location, right? Because I can say.
So you're probably next to more northern.
Outside of the action, right? I was not shooting. I was not shooting. I was strapped and everything.
I think America is still in Syria. It's great. And
I don't know, but undisclosed.
You were in Kuwait. Kuwait is known to have U.S. bases. Cool stuff.
Kuwait is it's like not like it was like a big thing, like big base, big everything. When I was in Syria, it was just just dirt, and there was no just tent city everywhere. It was a real deployment experience. So as a story,
when someone asks you where have you been in general, you go, I've been to Syria. It's like a very different
exactly as a story. As a story is great, but as not this is one of the best experiences that I never want to have again.
It's a bad. I follow that part of the world very closely. In fact, like very closely. It's not a good side of town to be a man. It's a tough life, but it also makes you realize, like, we have this culture now where we're always like,
America is so much better after you go there. You go there, and then you come back, you're like, oh my God, I love America.
And then you have people beside you complaining that, this and that. And you're like, people wake up and they're taking body parts off their lawn every morning. And you have like so much in this world, but that's the problem. We're always looking at the negative. It's just, we're designed to do so for whatever reason. And I think when you realize how much worse people have it, you're just so grateful. The fact that you can pursue your own company. Do you understand that you go to like South Sudan? It's just
coming from Puerto Rico, English is not even my first language. Like, I learned English by going into the military. Like, I knew a little bit, but I became bilingual by doing it. I still struggle with some words, and the reason that I can sound so good and not say is because of the podcast. I don't look at my first episode. It's shit. Like, look at this podcast.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the podcast has helped me a lot to be a better communicator. It's been amazing for me, life changing, like becoming a content creator in many ways, right? With the podcast, with TikTok, with LinkedIn, with all these different things that I do now, like, you know, like vertical and horizontal.
It's challenging. It really is. People don't realize it. And it's just like, I'm always self-conscious about me being a host. If I'm being like talking too much, if I'm not focused, how do I navigate this? When do I shift the conversation? That stuff takes time.
Yeah. And it's something that I feel so much more confident now, because I mean, I'm like 40 something episodes in right now.
Wow.
I have 34 episodes posted, but I have like 10.
You got your whole setup. Super cool. So, if I actually like was staying in one spot, I move around a lot.
I've been moving a little bit, right? Because I do standing too, because I keep the energy.
Come, we'll go on a cruise, and we'll work the whole time. So these cruises, you book them a year in advance. You know how much they cost? They cost nothing. They cost a few $100, like $200, $300. Well, I pay more because I do it last minute. But people on the cruise for 2 weeks, they paid $400. That's less than you pay for rent, and it has everything. You get to go to restaurants every night. Everything is taken care of. Everything.
Man, let's talk about after this podcast. We're gonna
Carnival.
Talk about going on a cruise.
I just came back. That's why I'm in Texas, because they kicked me out. They're like, "Hey, we're in Texas. We're done." And I'm like, "Okay," and I have nowhere to go. I just say, "I'm just gonna live here for a little bit." But
that's so crazy, man. This has been such a nice conversation. I mean, you drop so much value. I mean, this is one of those podcasts that
I think we just have similar mindsets. So I think that also appealed to you, because I think we both have the hustle mindset. Thank you.
You know, I hope that you take this as a compliment. You kind of give me like Elon Musk vibes type stuff, right? Like you want to work all the time. You have like they're learning disabilities, but then making the most out of it. And maybe, you know,
slightly crazy, go on Twitter, kind of losing it.
Go on Twitter, right?
I like it.
That's a compliment. I mean, you're obviously.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Big person. So
I aspire. I mean, I mean, he's the kind of guy who's just he's got the most radical dreams. I mean, we don't think he's crazy for wanting to bring people to Mars anymore, because he's proven he's capable of doing it. But I think on his onset, he's almost like a crazy person. Like, do you really think you're almost a narcissist that you think you can bring people to different planets? I mean, that's what he is. He's got these crazy ideas. And everything he does small now is just complementing, like batteries, cars, the brain work, solar work. It's just incredible.
That's why. I mean, it's he's just
Twitter
like
controls the narrative now. Who knows where that's gonna go? It's crazy out there.
It's crazy. I don't even know where this shit is going. But
I think the one thing he did, which was incredible, is that he made YouTube comments the second to most entertaining place. You know, like whenever I see these crazy videos, I go to the YouTube comments and I have like the time of my life. Now it's Twitter comments. I go to his feed, I read the comments, and I was like, this is amazing.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But I mean, we live in a crazy world, but
crazy world.
You know, like that's why
it's fun.
Entrepreneurship, and like right now, you know, we're going through recession and stuff, and really like I don't feel threatened at all or anything, because it's like
it's an opportunity. It's time to buy the garbage. It's time to buy garbage and sell gold.
Yeah, and if there's people that will survive a recession, it's gonna be always the people that are like entrepreneurs, that they just figure it out. Like I know that right now,
it's not about the specifics. It's about the mechanics, the mindset.
Even in the tough times, people that show up in the tough times are the ones that when the good times come, then like you're gonna be huge, because people remember the people that show up in the tough times. So that's why I'm doing
exactly. It's why it's important to, even when you may have a startup, it's important not to get funded too quickly. You want to learn how to optimize and do a lot with very little. So when you get the money, you can be extremely efficient.
I know.
And learning how to derive value or achieve productivity in a very inefficient atmosphere will give you incredible potential when you're actually in an efficient atmosphere. I couldn't agree more. And I think it's a mindset where people, like, for example, I would say this just broadly, and I know we'll end up on this, but, trading can be really complicated. You do Fibonacci sequences, you can do all these technical analysis, but to keep the psychology as mundane as possible, to put the secret to day trading successfully, or trading in general, in just one sentence, is do the exact opposite of common sense, or the exact opposite of human psychology. Where when you see the news and you see the media and you see the Google searches that Bitcoin is up, it's already too late. When everyone's saying Bitcoin sucks, it's time to sell, it's garbage, it's trash, it's never going to make it, and you believe in the underlying technology, not to get specific with Bitcoin, yes, we want to buy. When everyone's selling, you want to buy. When everyone is buying, that's when you want to sell. And exactly. And looking at, and the winners see beauty in the most negative places. They're constantly optimistic. You see a recession, you're like, exactly what you just said. You see a recession, you're like, no, this is an opportunity for me to grow in a very unique way, in a way that I can't grow otherwise. And I could not agree with you more. You can't control your environment, but you can control how you respond to it. And
yeah. And that's why, like, it's not just about me, right? Like my clients too. And for example, one of my clients, David A. Perez, his thing is to build your own economy. That's what he said. Doesn't matter what's happening in the world, you can always build your own economy. And if you build your own economy, you will always be in control. So that is something that it really resonates with me, and that's why I really like him as a client, because that's my purpose, is to amplify the impact of people that are doing good in the world. And when I see people pushing that agenda, that's like perfect, because it's just what we're doing. You are in the same boat too, and that's why I love the connection with you. And you're building this
Same here.
these digital assets, because I think that we can truly amplify the impact of people and help how you want to do the breaking 9 to 5, right? And how I want to be able to, the people that are doing good, amplifying them into the national stage, so that way they look, instead of just helping this few thousand, they help millions. So that is because I believe that what they're doing, and that's exactly, then I learn from them, and then I go and then do it for others, right? Like I'm learning from them, so now I can do in 5 years what they did in 10 years, right? But then I can
go stand on the shoulders.
We
stand on the shoulders of giants.
Exactly.
That's what we do.
Perfect.
We look just a little farther into the horizon.
Yeah, man. Hey, just this was, I know that this has been super good, but we gotta like let the audience, just have it and maybe listen to it again. So thank you for taking the time to come here. I mean, this was a pleasant conversation. I definitely enjoyed it. And
Same here.
I look forward to having more conversation with you.
Yeah.
Look forward
and I'm
to
gonna keep tabs
cool
because
stuff.
it's your journey is truly beautiful, and thank you for spending time with me and giving me your time and having me on your podcast.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. And so this was Mikey and Foo, and this is us signing off.
Thanks for listening to Moments with Foo with your host, Foo. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we will see you on the next episode.